Hi.
Now, can I just start by saying we're going to record this session so it's available to other people afterwards. If you don't want to be seen on the recording or whatever, happy to turn your camera off at the moment. We can answer any questions and do proper introductions at the end. But if you're happy, it'll be recorded and other people who are interested in being a governor can see the presentation. Now then, I have got a small presentation that Diane and I are going to make. As I said, I'm the chair of the trust. Diane is our company secretary. We're also joined this morning, Stuart from the admin team, who's acting on the recording, and you can see Chiara there, who's actually going to be running the election for us. So we'll hear more about that as time goes on. Okay. When we get to questions at the end, you can introduce yourselves individually if you want to. And everybody happy? We're going to record the session and we'll get going. Yeah, thank you very much. Diana, do you want to just put the presentation up, please? Thanks. So we're talking about becoming a governor. And if we look at the next slide, all these slides will be available to you, by the way. So I'm going to whip through them and you can peruse them at your pleasure at a later date in terms of the detail. But I'm going to go through a very brief introduction to the trust, and we'll then get into what being a governor is and why you might want to become one, and talk about the election process, and then give you plenty of time for questions at the end. So if we look at the next slide, please, just to make sure we're all on the same page in terms of who the trust is, you will know. Many of us know us by, the Cumberland Infirmary or the hospital at Hensingham or the Keswick Community Hospital or whatever. But the trust provides hospital and community health services to all the people of North Cumbria and to wider parts of Cumbria as well. We have over 70 services in 15 main locations. And it's worth noting that although it's 6,500 whole-time equivalents, we do actually have over 8,000 staff. And clearly our staff are a main part of the community as well. The trust has a history that you can see there. We're basically an integrated organisation in the sense that we provide hospital and community services, and we work very closely with the council in particular in terms of public health and social care, but also with GPs in primary care and with the voluntary and social enterprise sector in particular. There's lots of ways in which we try and join up for the health and care of all the people of North Cumbria. We're also in alliance with Newcastle Hospitals, Northumbria and Gateshead Hospitals in terms of working together to produce best possible care, and I'll come back to that. Can I have the next slide, please, Diane?
Stuart's doing the driving, so yeah.
Oh, it's Stuart, is it? Thanks, Stuart. I just worth saying a little bit about our current strategy. Sometimes if you just look at the newspapers, you would think the trust is totally in the doldrums all the time. And we do have some problems, which I'll also mention. But we've launched a year or so ago now, 2 years now, a new strategy. And if we go on to the next slide, please, Stuart. And the reasons for that are kind of multiple, really. Obviously, we were coming out of the COVID pandemic period, which stressed the NHS, as you will know, an awful lot. And getting back to normal working and the standards we would expect to meet is a major need of the strategy. But also, we know Cumbria, we know our population is not just older than average for the country, but getting older quicker than the average. So we are serving a population which has a lot of needs. And at the same time, you'll be very familiar with the idea that life's not fair. And they're both in terms of health inequalities and all the other things of life, including jobs and money and so on and so forth, all of which are connected. People don't have the health experience or the life experience of the average in this country, and it varies across our county enormously too. There are other issues, and we can come back to many of them. One that's worth particularly noting is that we are financially challenged as an organization, and we have many consultant specialties where we haven't traditionally found it very difficult to recruit good people. So Stuart, could you move on, please? This came together as a strategy. There's a kind of illustration of it here, but really our purpose, you can see there, of safe, high quality care every time, supported by our ambition that we would be recognized not just for excellence in being an integrated trust and providing integrated care, but that we understand the needs of our rural and coastal population and all of the issues of inequalities that I talked about before. We are not simply serving a population of the town that we reside in, and the surrounding area is limited, as in many parts of the country, trusts just serve a particular town or city. We have a very dispersed population, and not just dispersed in the sense of rural, but dispersed in the sense of the big distance that you'll be familiar with between Carlisle and Whitehaven, our two main hospital sites. We have objectives related to our patients, our people, our partners, and our pounds, as you can see there. And the whole thing is built on a foundation of the values that we have as an organization. And again, you can see them there, the kindness, respect, ambition, and collaboration, which drives the way we work, or the way we try and work, and how we make decisions. So thank you, Stuart. Next one. Just quickly go through a couple of our objectives related to that strategy. As I said, our patients come first, and we want to improve the quality of our services. You might be familiar, we have long waiting times for some services. We've had issues with the CQC in some services in terms of the improvements that are required, just as we have many very good services. So we want to get to the same high quality standard everywhere. Fairness comes into it, and so on and so forth. Just one small point there, and you can see how we've laid out the objective in terms of the things that need to be done, how we can integrate better, and what the future looks like. And I'll come back to that when I talk about our partners. So the next one, please, Stuart. Similarly, we really want to provide a great place to work. The well-being of our own staff, the way in which we work together, and the way in which we develop together are really important. Those of you who know the history of the Trust will know that we've had a lot of very senior staff, managers in particular, coming from outside. And part of our strategy is about how we develop a pipeline for talent to kind of grow our own senior staff, and that both in terms of nurses and doctors, but also managers, and how we develop that talent that we've got. I want to just emphasize the point there at the bottom under grow of us being an anchor institution. I've already mentioned we employ over 8,000 staff. After Sellafield, we're the biggest employer. Most of our staff do live in the community, obviously, and we want to be a leading place where people want to work, but also where people know they can develop their careers. We have a lot of apprentices. We develop a lot of nurses from positions as healthcare assistants and so on and so forth. We work in partnership with the University of Cumbria. We want to be that anchor institution in so many different respects, and that's where we see the future for our people. And the next one, please, Stuart. I mentioned our partners and the close working that we have with other trusts over in the Northeast. This does lead to service improvements, and you might be familiar with the changes that have happened with cancer services, which are provided locally, but with partnership with Newcastle hospitals. And in some specialties, that is definitely the way forward, where we can provide things locally, but we're not necessarily the trust in charge of how it's provided locally. We see partnership not just with other trusts, but with the GPs locally, with the mental health providers. It's a huge issue in terms of how we can cooperate with the trust that provides mental health services in our patch. And as I've mentioned before, voluntary and third sector colleagues and the way in which we work with the council to provide that neighbourhood health, passion for kind of health improvement and for fairness and for tackling inequalities. These are all huge issues for us in the future. And the next one, please, Stuart. So we need to make the best of our use of our resources, partly because of our aging population, partly because of the nature of providing services across such a big patch, which as we know, is both rural and the communities like out west, and partly history. We are very challenged with the money that's allocated to us by the government in terms of making ends meet. So you can see there how the strategy inevitably talks about the need to improve productivity. And then we need to work to get to the best practice in those areas. And the next slide, please. That's not to say, however, that there aren't massive investments that we can and do make. And just as an examples here, you can see the new endoscopy unit and the Cumberland Infirmary, the Community Diagnostic Centre at Workington. We've had other investments and we know the A&E department at the Cumberland Infirmary is overcrowded and too busy. Building the urgent treatment centre right alongside is part of our plans for making that better. An investment like moving to the electronic patient record, which has just successfully happened this year, are part of a huge modernisation plan that we've got for the trust. And that's part of the way we will become more productive in the long run. The next slide, please. I'm not going to go into this at all, but as governors or potential governors, you will want to know what our governance is, how we work, and we do have structures to help us work. At which point I'm just going to pass on to Diane, who's, as I introduced her, our company secretary, who's just going to talk through a little bit about how the governors fit in. And you can see the Council of Governors at the top right-hand corner of that diagram. So next one. Next one, please, Stuart. Thanks, Diane.
Thank you. So thanks for the introduction. So yes, so the Governors Council is a fundamental part of Foundation Trust's governance arrangements. We are a Foundation Trust. So just a little bit here about what the role of a governor is and what's involved in that. So there's a number of different roles and purposes set out for governors in legislation, but the primary ones are listed here on, as you can see. We have a board of directors that are comprised of executive directors and non-executive directors as a unitary board. The role of the Governors Council is to hold the non-executive directors to account for the performance of the board. I mean, in practice at Governors Council meetings, you get a mix of both non-executive directors and executive directors coming along, and you hear from both. But Another main function is to represent the interests of the public and members of the trust. So in reality, we engage and we communicate and we interact with members and the public equally, but there is membership that to become a governor you would need to sign up to be a member, but it's the members who would elect people who submit a nomination to become a governor, so that we have there's definitely a role for members as part of the governance. But so engaging, liaising with, seeking feedback from, and importantly, providing that feedback back to the trust is part of the governor role. In terms of the people on our board, I mentioned around non-executive directors. So it's the Governor's Council who actually make the appointment of non-executive directors and the chair onto the board of directors. There's a number of supporting infrastructure that goes behind that, but fundamentally it's the Governor's Council that make that decision. Other elements that's on the slide here is around the annual report and accounts. So every year, all NHS trusts have to prepare an annual report and accounts. For foundation trusts, that's laid before Parliament. But importantly, the Governor's Council is to receive a report from our external auditors on their findings on the annual report and account. So that's one of the main functions, to receive that. Our constitution, so how we do things around here, the rules, the governance is set out within the trust constitution. One of the roles of the Governor's Council is to approve any changes to that constitution alongside the board of directors as well. So within that, you've got various arrangements, including how many governors we have on the Governor's Council, where the areas that they represent. So within our Governor's Council, we've got constituencies that are structured within the boundaries that used to be the district councils of the local authority. So yeah, any changes associated with that, very much for the Governor's Council to approve. If you could move on to the next slide, Stuart, please. So many people ask me, what do governors do? It's also important to know what governors don't do. So managing the performance of the hospital is for the board. As I mentioned before, the Governor's Council is to seek their assurances on behalf of the public and members that the board is undertaking their functions appropriately. So governors don't get involved in the day-to-day operation or the performance management of the hospital or of the trust. In terms of visiting services, by all means, we can arrange for visits to be undertaken, but it's not something that governors would do to visit services by yourselves. Importantly, whilst individual, like members of the public, friends, family, acquaintances may come to you to say, well, I've got a problem or there's an issue with my care, it's not a governor role to get involved in individual patients' issues. If there are things that people come to you and it's a general theme, a trend, a general concern, yes, that's absolutely something that you would bring to our attention through myself and my team, and we would signpost accordingly. But if there are any individual patients or issues around the care of an individual, then as a governor, you would signpost them to our patient experience team, our PALs. And importantly, a governor isn't on the Governor's Council to raise their own interests. It's a public duty. Are you there to act on behalf of and represent the public and the people in the constituency, as opposed to any own particular issues that you myself be interested in? And the text that's in red there, importantly, it's the Governor's Council that has the role, the responsibilities, the duties under statute, under law, not any individual governor. So it's the collective rather than the individual that's got the duty, but it's everybody's input and everybody's experience that makes the Governor's Council work, makes that difference for staff. So if you'd like to move on, Stuart, thank you. So why be a governor? Well, it's a really, really great opportunity to get the give a voice to our communities and our local people, to make that connection between our communities and the trust. And as Stephen mentioned earlier there's a lot of improvement activity that we absolutely will and need to engage with our communities on. So governors are very much a conduit for that. Stephen, is there anything more that you want to come into here on this particular point before we move on to the next slide?
No, just to say that I think you're going to mention potential changes in the legislation, but we've had discussion with the governors about how the Governor's Council itself could develop, even if the statutory duties change, along the lines that where we really want to do better in terms of planning together for the future, engaging about any changes that are on offer with the community, and being better engaged, and with staff, because although we haven't mentioned it, of course, there's a staff voice amongst the governors as well. So we see it as a real need to do better engagement and better connection with the community. And we want to use both the governors and the members as part of that process. So that's all to develop for the future. But I'll pass back to you, Diane.
Thank you. If you move on to the next slide, Stuart, thanks. So Stephen mentions a really good point there around which hasn't been covered in the slide so far, is how is the Governor's Council made up? What's the composition of the Governor's Council? So we've got public governors, staff governors, and also appointed governors. So staff governors and public governors are elected by our members. So public governors are elected by the membership within our constituencies. Our staff governors are elected by our members of staff, and our appointed governors are nominated by designated partner organisations like the local authority and local universities. But in terms of commitment to the governor role and what's involved in that, so I'm going to come back to the very first point here where it says the role is for up to 3 years. It is for up to 3 years under the current legislation. The role it's unpaid and it is voluntary. There is expenses. If you needed travel expenses to attend meetings, they would get reimbursed. Governor's Council meetings, there's 5 of those Governor's Council meetings each year, and they tend to be held from 1 o'clock till 4 o'clock, and they're in February, April, June, September and November. And there's also an additional, an annual general meeting, which this year is going to be on the 12th of October. So those are the minimum commitments that we would say: attend the Governor's Council meetings, and if you can, the annual general meeting. And then anything other than that would be what you are able to commit to. There are many different opportunities to get involved with other governance forums that the Governor's Council run, but importantly, and this is a really important thing, engaging with communities, attending maybe parish council meetings, any events that you would normally go to and not have to put yourself out to go to. They're the real opportunities for engaging with your community. And all governors have to sign up to the Governor's Code of Conduct, which is basically the commitment to say that you are a fit and proper person and meet all the requirements, which we would go into further. And it will be within the details that I'm sure Chiara will go through shortly. We've made reference to a forthcoming change or potential forthcoming change in legislation, which you may have heard of, the NHS 10-year plan that was issued last year. Now, one of the bills that is going through Parliament at present is the health bill. Within that health bill, there is a statement that says that governors' councils will no longer form part of the governance arrangements for foundation trusts, which in effect will bring to an end of the arrangements for governors' councils and the duties around that. That is going through Parliament at present. There's no guarantee that that will actually happen. And we are working on the basis that we continue arrangements as per now, continue with the status quo until there's confirmation either way of that. If it is to happen, it'll probably happen as from April next year. So these elections that we're running at present, we are continuing as if it was for a 3-year appointment term, but it may be that if legislation changes, those arrangements would need to come to an end in April. However, we are committed to continuing with something that is that will enable people who are undertaking a governor role at present to continue to be engaged and be involved and have a role in whatever the future governance arrangements might look like. We've started the conversation with our Governors' Council around what that might be, and we are yet to have, well, I should say, we will need to continue those conversations and have everybody's input into designing what the future arrangements could be, as are all other trusts who are in the same situation. And we are actively engaging with colleagues across the NHS as to what that could look like. So we have a workable, but importantly for us, an active and effective way of engaging with our communities and having that two-way feedback and dialogue. I think that's it from myself. So do you want to pause to take any questions here, or do we want to run through Chiara's presentation first?
Let's have Chiara's as well next, and then we'll move on to kind of questions and discussion and chat. Thanks, Diane.
Thank you for sharing those slides.
Thanks, Chiara.
Hi everybody. As mentioned, I'm from Civica Election Services. We've been appointed to be the returning officer for these elections. We're an independent provider of election services. So now I'm just going to go through how you can nominate yourself and how the election process works. Just going to the next slide. So this is a basic overview of the timetable. So the first part of the process is nominations, which as an interested person, that's the time you'll be able to nominate yourself to stand. So the nomination period already opens. It opened on the 9th of July and it will close at 5 p.m. on Thursday, the 6th of August. The following day, we will publish a list on the 7th of August of all the valid nominations we've received. If you choose to stand, if you're one of the candidates, you will be emailed a copy of that directly. You then have the opportunity to withdraw until the 11th of August if you change your mind for any reason. We then move on to the voting stage. So voting will open on the 28th of August and close at 5 p.m. on the 23rd of September. We then aim to publish the results the next day on the 24th of September. And if you are one of the candidates, you will again be contacted directly with those results. So how do you nominate yourself? Firstly, it's a self-nomination process. You need to be a member of the trust by the 6th of August. I'm assuming you're all here, so you already are a member, but reach out if you're unsure. You need to be in a constituency, which we have a vacancy, and you need to complete and submit a nomination form. You can do this online. The link is displayed on the page right now, which is a bit unclear, so I'll probably put that in the chat later so you've got a copy of that. You'll need to complete and submit that by 5 p.m. on the 6th of August. There's also a paper form you can send back by post. But if you do it that way, make sure it's received by the 6th of August. So the easiest and quickest way is to complete the online form. So what does the form involve? Firstly, we want your contact details. The only part of that will get published will be your forename, your surname, and your constituency, your home address, an email address. That's just for our verification process and so that we can contact you through the process. The next slide, please. We also ask to declare if you have any political or financial interests. For political interests, you only need to declare if you are a member of a political party, so you don't need to include who you vote for. For financial interest, this is, for example, if you have a company that provides any goods or services to the trust. If you're a member of staff at the trust, you don't need to declare that, as that's already a given. But if you're unsure about either of those two questions, if you reach out, I can help you with that. And the next bit is the declaration. That's where we ask you to declare that you are eligible to stand. So there's a couple of clauses on that page. Just have a little read through those. And there's a bit more detail in the Trust Constitution. If you're unsure if any of those apply to you, if you reach out, we can help you with that. We also offer you the opportunity to supply a photo. If you supply this will be included in the voting information that goes out to members. It is optional, but it is always an advantage to include a photograph. Ideally, we want a head and shoulders photo. However, don't worry too much about it. We can crop most photos. Just make sure that your face and head is clear, and then we can crop it to whatever we need. You can upload it directly to the form. But if you have any issues uploading the form, please just submit it without it and contact me, and we can make sure you get your photo included. Finally, it's the election statement. This is the most important part of your nomination, so it's worth taking some time to complete this. Again, this is sent out to all members at the voting stage. Most members probably won't know who you are, so it is worth taking some time to complete this. Next slide, please. So what to think about when writing your election statement. First, do some research and just find out more about the role. Hopefully you've got lots of great information from the presentation today so far. You can also have a look at the election website and the Trust's own website for some more information. You then want to consider your skills, your experiences, and how you can apply that to the role. You might want to include what your contact and relationship with is a trust, why you are choosing to stand, and what you can offer, and then hopefully be able to put that all into a statement. Next one, a few tips to avoid. Try to avoid writing about things that aren't relevant to the role. Also try to avoid over-promising, and also try to avoid using your election statement to complain about services, especially without sort of offering any solutions. Next slide. There is a word limit. It's 250 words. So please do check your statement before submitting it. We are quite strict. We will cut it at exactly 250 words. If you submit it online, there is a handy word count feature, so that does all the hard work for you. But if you are submitting it another way, either by email or post, please count that yourself. Please also check your spelling and grammar. The online form won't check that for you, so please check that yourself, or get someone else to check it before you submit it. Once you submit your nomination form, we will email you back a confirmation, so please give that one final check, and if you notice any mistakes at that stage, I will be happy to amend it for you. So then we move to the voting stage. So assuming we get more nominations in a constituency than there are vacancies, we will move to voting. So all members within a particular constituency will be able to vote. So members in the Public Ealing constituency will only be voting for candidates in the Public Ealing constituency, and it's the same with all other sort of constituencies. So each member will receive voting paper and the election statement, and public members will also receive a declaration of identity. If the trust holds a valid email for you, this will be sent by email, otherwise it will be sent out by post. So voting will open on the 28th of August and will close at 5 p.m. on the 23rd of September. Just one more point, if you are wanting to get your friends and family to vote for you, you need to make sure they're in the same constituents as you. Also, you need to make sure they are signed up as members by the close of nominations, as that's the eligibility date. Final slide. So yeah, that's everything. There's the link again if you want to submit a nomination form, and just a reminder, just put your nominations in by 5 p.m. on the 6th of August. And there's my contact details. So if you have any questions after this, feel free to reach out and I'll be happy to help.
Okay, thanks, Cara. Okay, well, we've got plenty of time for questions and or comments and or discussion. What I'd like to do is, if you've got one, then you can either signal to me with your hand or actually raise your hand electronically or whatever. We'll go through it. If you could introduce yourself before you ask your question or make your comment, that would be very helpful too. Thank you very much. So, does anybody want to start? No particular questions? Comments? No, there doesn't have to be, of course. Yes. Hello, Alison.
Hi, I'm Alison Crompton. I have lived in Cumbria for 25 years. I'd like to thank everybody for the really useful and informative presentations today. Otherwise, I don't actually have any comments.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Alison. And as I said before, we'll, you can peruse all of those. Diane will make the presentations available to people to have a look at and so on. Cara, did you want to say something? No?
No, I was just putting the link to the election website into the chat
yes,
for everyone to access it easily.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I feel I've rushed through the presentation now, and when I was hoping we had time for discussion, but that's fine. Anna, yes.
Well, I just wanted to say hello, and just I feel a bit of an interloper because I live in Northumberland, but I joined as a member. I'm an aspiring non-exec director, so really I'm just here to really learn as much as I can. I attend public board meetings at Gateshead NHS Foundation Trust, and anything I can do to help just improve my knowledge about how it all works is great. But I hope you didn't mind me butting in on this call.
Not at all, Anna, not at all.
Especially as you would be eligible to be a governor here, unless you got a position as a non-exec director.
No, I'm well up for it. I really am. So that's great news. How do I find out my constituency, by the way?
You're in the North Yorkshire constituency.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, that's enough.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah. Right. Okay, I'll shut up now. Great to meet you all. Thank you very much. Okay, cheers. Thanks.
Russell, you're smiling. Did you want to say anything?
No, I was just here at the invitation of the league governor in case the prospective candidate wanted to ask anything of an existing governor, but I'm just happy. I'm just happy to hear some enthusiasm for joining.
Excellent. I should have introduced you, Russell, as one of the existing governors at the beginning. So thank you for attending. Okay, well, if we haven't got any questions, thank you very much indeed for joining the call. And thank you, Alison, for your thanks and appreciation. But we will make sure everybody, whether they've been on the call today or whatever, who expresses an interest, gets the two presentations so they can peruse them, and maybe that'll help them with their application if they decide to go ahead.
Great.
And thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.